and then make a swing. And it kind of went like
Thanks.
that.
Appreciate it. Told you I wasn't safe.
You're not safe there.
You guys got that on camera.
That bounced off the mat into the net and into you. Thanks. I like it. Welcome to another Q&A here at GOLFTEC headquarters. We're in the development bay today. So the fastest thing we can show you in here, you might notice that the enclosures for the nets look a little different.
Not a crazy room?
No, it's not the crazy room. I like the padding though. Patrick Nuber here as well. And then we're messing around with some new screens here that look really nice. And then obviously some lighting that you can't see, but it's certainly shining right in our eyes. It's just all sorts of stuff we do in here. You can see some, the Gears motion capture system is running on, I think, 2 computers now, a TrackMan sitting over there, and then we're doing some cool calibration with some of those other systems.
Kind of looks like a magic guy sitting back there.
I like that new padding color better than this one. But anyway, so we wanted to talk about a few questions, but first I did something today as an experiment. I wanted to see what would happen if I walked over to our local driving range dressed like that, in these plain clothes. I had my shirt untucked, pair of shorts on, and my favorite wedge, that Callaway 64-degree wedge.
It's quite a glamour shot of you there.
It looks like you could have bought that at Walmart.
That's what my dad looks like when he's trying to take a selfie and work a phone at the same time.
Going for the look of the sun is shining in my eyes, and what are these people thinking? Because that's like the whole point of what we did.
Well, you're assuming they're probably paying attention to you at the same point.
No one's paying attention, I'm sure. But I was wondering what they were thinking, because what I did was I just went over and hit a bunch of wedge shots on the driving range next to all these fine people who I'm sure are awesome people as well. But they had some interesting conversations going on about their golf games. So I wanted to talk about some of that. So here were maybe 3 or 4 of the things I heard that I thought were hilarious. Let's go ahead and put on our TechSwing software here just to talk about it and just to show it. So the first one was, I didn't see anyone out there who actually hit a draw. They didn't even exist.
Ever.
Yep. So that's interesting in and of itself. So not that you need to draw, but the spin loft problem is what everybody's battling. And I think we've got questions up here on describing what that is. But one I thought was interesting. First guy I stood right behind, hit some wedges, and he chanked the first 3 or 4. Not uncommon out there.
So I'm safe here right now, right?
You're fine.
Okay.
So he's holding the club like this with his left hand. So it's turned significantly to the left. And then he had a swing direction that at best was 10 degrees to the left of the target. I mean, it was absurd. And a lot of the shots, as his club head's approaching the ball, like you see in that side view camera, the sweet spot of the club has a long way to travel to not hit the hosel. And that's what most people do when they slice. And then he was talking to a friend of his there, and he was telling his friend that he thought, after watching some golf recently, he's watching Jordan Spieth and Matt Wolff, who that's our next question. You won't want to miss that question and then the very last one. That one's worth tuning in for. But he saw both of them hold the club with their left hand turned significantly to the left. That's the beginning of slicing. Now those guys are very good and they know how to bend their wrists,
to not do
it
from there.
Uncock the shaft like this and help themselves not do that.
Sure.
But someone who slices, that's maybe the most ridiculous thing to do, but he's trying to turn it more to the left.
Right.
That should go to the right. But in addition to that, he was also trying to rationalize with his buddy that if he aimed more to the left and kept swinging more to the left, that would make the ball start more to the left, so all the shots would be fine. Sound familiar?
So ultimately trying to end straight, but at the same point just starting further to the left?
Further to the left. That was the solution? Still the same spin loft problem. Okay. And yes, all of that is a total disaster too. No, I appreciate whenever people use trial and error and try to figure that part out. I think that part's good. But the way he was going about trial and error is ultimately where people end up, and then they need a lot of help. Yeah. So I understand. I'd try to use trial and error if I were most people fixing golf swings too. Now, if you don't want to slice anymore, what that person should have done was actually take their left hand, and then you can feel this dimple that sits right on top of your wrist from that front view camera. That needs to sit at least on the top of the shaft, and I would tell most people to keep turning that even a touch more to the right. And then with your right hand, take your index finger of your trail hand, or right hand for a right-handed golfer, and put that more underneath the shaft. So turning your hands to the right make it much harder for you not to hit with the face closed to the swing direction that you're trying to use. The next part is that anyone can learn to draw or hit the ball straighter. The swing direction has to be more to the right. So I'm going to hit like 4 or 5 yard carried shot that draws. So first with my left-hand turn.
Over here?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, you haven't hit for a while, right?
We'll find out afterwards. Yeah,
you didn't actually hit balls today. You just watched.
No, I don't ever hit balls. This is all I'm going to do.
That's why I'm asking.
So turning both your hands to the right, and then I'm going to just aim my swing direction probably about 10 degrees to the right or so, and just chip one out there. Use that as a demo all the time. So let's take a look at that shot and actually the data. So checking out the curve, there's the curve, tiny push, little curve to the left. Looking at the data here as well, you've got a side spin, which is really just the tilt of the axis of the ball. If it reads to the left, it's drawing. So here's the shot that you can see. I did that on the smallest scale. So anyone can learn to do that on a full swing. It really isn't that hard, but good instruction really helps you along the way. Second one that I saw.
Yeah, what else did you see?
Oh man, that one was a doozy, but
20 minutes.
Doing it all wrong. Okay, so you've always got the person who's, I've seen this one many times in Pro-Ams at PGA Tour events too. The guy who stands there on the range with his arms out in front of him like this, and he's just working his grip, gonna get it just right. It's gotta be perfect. Maybe he needs to cover up his left thumb on that. You see that okay? Over there, Scott, or hands have to be turned just the right way, and then stands up and hits a shot that just kind of rolls down the fairway into the net. That thing didn't even get off the ground. See that part all the time. What most people should be worrying about to begin with is their form. So making a backswing that represents what tour players do. So that's what we use to measure all the time at GOLFTEC. So we know how open your shoulders are, how much you're tilted, how much you're bending. None of that needs to be complicated either, but it does make it much easier to learn. Then the next part I would try to get right if I were a bad golfer searching for some sort of system to try to help themselves would be to move your hands inward enough so that when your lead arm is parallel to the ground, it's not above your shoulder or hacking into your neck from that side view.
Where would you put it? Sorry, Nick, where would you put it if you wanted it?
Somewhere below your shoulder would be fine.
Pretty
hands
on
are pretty
that
close
elbow.
to the middle of my bicep or so. That would be a very nice start. You do that at on the backswing, and then when your lead arm's parallel to the ground again on the downswing. And then finally through the ball, exiting on this side just below your left shoulder about the same way. That would be the second thing to do. And then the last thing to do would be worry about your grip or worry about if the shaft is angled a certain way at the top of your swing. That's the last part to go. So move like a real person.
Face. How about that one?
Even further down the road, maybe. Depends on what you're trying to do. If I'm just giving somebody a half-an-hour lesson and I can just close the club face some and the results are better, that's fine. But if you're rank beginner, you don't know what you're doing, you should start with how to move your hand path around like a PGA Tour player would. Never as high as most people have it from the side view camera there. Keeping your arms down and further behind you are always a nice way to learn how to play the game. Then the last part's the shaft in the face.
Okay.
And then the last one was always my favorite one. I still remember this this woman who was playing in a Pro-Am with my friend Troy Madison at an event. And this is what she did. And I saw the same thing again today. It was just maybe to a little smaller scale. It took her about a minute to set up to the ball. She'd approach it from behind, put her club down.
This isn't even on the putting green, right?
This is on the driving range.
I've seen that more on the putting green.
Make sure that's aimed straight using your two eyes to do it.
Because it will never change when you step into it.
Right. Twist it around as you move in. Take your grip, get that perfect, and then she had her knees flexed a lot and her back as straight as she could get it. It's even more so like this. Her arms as straight as she could get, and then she'd stand there for somewhere between a minute or two and then make a swing. And it kind of went like that.
Thanks, appreciate it. Told you I wasn't safe.
You're not safe there.
You guys got that on camera.
That bounced off the mat into the net and into you. I like it. So she's just wasting a bunch of time like that, and it's not uncommon. But I saw a gentleman on the range doing almost the same thing, hitting a bunch of grounders, and his follow through looked something like this.
Yeah.
So where he should be starting all of the time is figuring out how to keep the position of his pelvis and his shoulders more toward the target as he hits into the follow through. Maybe put in there trying to stretch the shaft out as far away from you as you can through the shot, and it probably would have taken me 2 minutes to get him off and running.
Okay, I had this as a potential question to throw out to you later, but it seems fitting to throw it in now.
Okay, let's go.
So you're talking about a lot of places for people to start when they have some hitting issues, talking about some of the common problems. Beginning golfers, typically you're told some other things and other places to start that seem to be high, like gasp.
Yeah.
Can you comment for these guys watching and gals watching in terms of like why that may not be the best place or probably isn't the best place to start?
Yeah, that's a long answer.
We can tackle all of it another day too, but I just thought it was fitting.
It's a good question. So to learn to play the game, starting with how to grip the club, where to aim your club face or your stance, or stand just a certain way, like that example I just mentioned. There's value in that. And
sure.
I teach everybody to aim pretty straight and stand a certain way, but I spend about 2 minutes on that at the most, and that's if someone is brand new at this.
Yeah.
Then you get right into the skills that people have. So good players can hit the ground with an iron in front of the ball.
Okay.
Get into that more quickly. And usually that starts with just where you put your hips and your shoulders.
Just what you were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah, making sure those aren't moving too far away. That's a better spot for a beginning golfer. And then like we'll look at Matt Wolff's swing here in just a minute when you stop asking questions. How to raise the shaft up as you're hitting the ball.
You like to hear yourself talk, Nick. I'm just letting you go.
Oh, sorry.
Feeding the beast here.
I didn't know I said that out loud. So straightening your legs and raising the butt end of the club is a huge skill to not let yourself use the club like you're trying to flip pancakes
hibachi,
in the morning.
Right? Like that's what I see.
Yeah, the hibachi the Japanese restaurants tossing stuff into the air. But that's how people play. They get near the golf ball, slow down the butt end of the club, and then just try to toss the ball up into the air. It just doesn't work that way.
Okay, so
you ready?
Moving
that was
on
way
to the
too
next
long.
one.
Let's go do the next one. Yeah. So how about this one? So how would you fit someone for wedges?
Yes.
I'll hit these.
So this would be it's really easy. It's really simple, not complicated at all. So the way we would start is just setting up the distance of the shot, and that would be from 40 yards. It's your distance that you use a lot of these wedges for. Yes, you use them for full swing and maybe some smaller ones, but for a standard pitch shot, 40 yards is a good baseline. And then what you're looking for somebody to try to do to hit a good wedge shot is to launch it at a certain angle with a certain amount of spin. So the way that the angle that you would want to launch would be 32-ish degrees, right around there. And then trying to spin the ball essentially as much as you can to get the ball to stop. So starting with a good baseline would be to start with over 6,000 RPMs of backspin. For example, you see the tour players on TV, when they hit those things, it takes like one hop and then stops. They can spin these shots over like 7,000. But too many of your golfers are hitting wedges like that really don't afford them that. So we'll talk a little bit about some other examples in a bit. But it'd be really simple. So you'd come in with your wedge, hit 4 shots, see where you are with the launch and spin. Yeah. And then based on where you are, start hitting some newer stuff. Yeah. So you can hit different brands. You can try some different grinds on the wedge. You can try some, all of the different brands have maybe different ways they're building the grooves or creating those. Yeah. So you hit those and then essentially choose the best one. Okay. So let's go through that real quick. So that's it's actually like my old Mizuno wedge. Do I need to go over here and drive?
Yeah, you'll drive that thing. And then,
so that's my old wedge from Mizuno. It was a good one, but it's done.
So we're choosing 40 yards because anyone can walk in and hit that, and you can see some serious spin differences between these wedges. Even when I'm hitting off this stance mat right here, new wedges versus old perform very, very different.
Okay, so we are ready.
40 yards.
Yep, 40 yards. You got that? Do this. Get that one? There we go. Okay, so that one, for example, the launch angle is okay. It's at 32. You can see it right here in this gauge that will show you in a little bit. So right where that needs to be, but the spin is low. So just over 5,700 RPMs of backspin. Hit one more with that. We'll get a sample here. So launch went down. So the average of those two were 31.5 degrees. So pretty close there. And then the backspin still at 5,700 RPMs. Okay. So let's give you a newer ones. That's a high toe.
Yeah.
Callaway PM grind.
Yep, 54.
So let me put that in here real quick.
So the advantage to some of these wedges, can you get in here, Scott, and take a look at that? They're building some different grinds and different soles, as Patrick had mentioned. I really like this one from Callaway. It's got a higher center of gravity in it so that the sweet spot's actually raised up a little bit. That helps you get a little bit lower launch. But even more so, it just has a unique look to it. So you can use some of the toe of the club, which a lot of people, especially tour players, use to help them swing faster, get a smaller smash factor, and still put a bunch of spin on the ball as a result.
Yep, so we're ready.
Okay, so same 40-yard shot, just a brand new wedge. Hit that too far.
That one went about 50 yards.
Okay. We can kick that one out.
Let me kick that one out real quick. Let's get some more apples to apples here. So looking around that 40-yard mark again.
So the advantage to this too is we're just going to pick your
So that's a little over 40, but launch angle is 30, and the backspin is at 8,000. So significantly increase the backspin right there on that one. Let's take a look at this next one.
That's about how I hit most of these shots.
Yeah.
That one maybe went a few yards too far, but
yeah, a little further.
About the same example.
But still the same thing. That one flew a little further, so the spin went up a little bit on that one. But still the same point. The newer wedge, the different design, even what he was talking about earlier, the new grooves just allow you to grab the ball a lot more. So again, you'd hit a series of 4 shots with 2 more wedges, see which one actually launches and spins the most, and then essentially take that one. The problem is though, when you're trying to play good golf, you'll actually have people that walk in with clubs like this. So this is the old Ping I2 lob wedge. Was good for wedge back in its day. The same thing with this Cleveland R588. It's a 60 degree as well. But the problem with this is the grooves can tend to get worn down. So what we'll typically see with that is shots that launch a little too high, don't spin as much, kind of like what we saw with that older one that Nick was hitting. And then you have a host of other problems such as bad bounce or just too low of a bounce. I would suggest that golfers should err with higher bounce.
Oh yeah, and at least 12 degrees, 14, 16 if you can get it in your shots around the green.
Yeah, and if you're not sure what that is, it's just essentially how far the leading edge is sitting off the ground when you have the shaft vertical. It's essentially a forgiveness factor or design element of the club. And then the last thing would be, so if you're thinking about getting new wedges, not sure if yours are fit, they look like some of these ones, or these might even be in your bag, would just be to check your gaps. So a lot of times I see golfers just have gaps that are essentially the same, or just too close together or too far apart.
Right. Students come in with 2 pitching wedges. Not that you at home would do something like that, but if you have a pitching wedge and then a lob wedge, you have a problem. Next one. I would like to hear your take on what appears to be a shift away from technical swings and more about what the legends of the game did, or swinging your swing more, or I could say it as trying to abbreviate this question. Just that it's the total opposite of how Bryson DeChambeau approaches the problem too. He feels like a lot of people are just going to swings, and maybe you're looking at like Matt Wolff's swing as an example. We're watching Jim Furyk, who is very different looking, although they're all really very similar too. So what do you think about things changing from being technical swings to
going back,
freewheeling? Yep.
Well, first of all, like you mentioned, like the old school swings. So you look at like Hogan, Snead. They did a lot of things right, especially when like we compare like how they would move compared to like our average tour players today. They did a lot of similar things
to say that
to similar degrees, but
they swing just like the swings that we measure all the time of tour players. It's not different.
Yeah, it's not different. And then somewhere, so brief history lesson, somewhere along the line we got out of whack with that. That's what was really going on. Those guys did that to hit the ball really far. They figured out how to do that. Obviously the equipment's helping guys out today, but they were using that through like making big long swings, big turns. They still did all the tilting and the bending, even though they just didn't look at it or phrase it that way. But then you had, I would say, and feel free to chime in on this one, but probably around the 80s into the 90s, the celebrity instructors started to get together, write down ideas, publish a lot of books, and then those ideas got perpetuated throughout golf instruction and kind of led to kind of going away from what the old school did. So a couple of things when you look at the movement away from old school into the dark ages are things like reducing the amount that somebody turns, like how much they straighten the trail knee in the backswing.
This might be
how much they're moving their feet.
Just demo it out there on the mat.
We'll grab show them. Sure. Yeah, so
the video camera came about. People could start measuring things with straight lines, and suddenly technique changed.
Sure. And I've got a couple written down there. So if I forget one of those, help me out. But the first one would be like just this right knee and how this moves. If you look at like Palmer, Snead, Player, all those guys, when they swung back, this trail knee would straighten up to help them turn and tilt and make a bigger backswing, essentially. But then somewhere along the way, I was thought that it was a good idea to try to limit that. and you keep that knee flexed the entire time. And when I swing back, if I keep that flexed, ultimately it limits how much I can turn and tilt and shortens up the backswing. So so that's one of those that I would look at, is just trying to learn how to straighten that knee out, make a big backswing. Makes it a lot easier, like you were talking about, to move your hands in.
That's an
element
of golf, really, is to do that in the backswing.
Yeah,
and there's no good reason to try not to change your trail knee flex at all. There is zero.
Another one was just like what feet are doing. And I think maybe a lot of this is like you hear the term stable lower body, of just trying to keep everything stable. You can move around, that's okay. Now, moving side to side may have its problems, but looking at your feet, for example, in the backswing, a player comes to mind like Eduardo Molinari, and what he's trying to do when you see him making his backswings now. Trying to like lift that heel a little bit more. He's straightening that to make a bigger backswing. Even when you look at players like Lexi Thompson, Bubba Watson, all these guys, when they swing through, how the feet should move. And you see these guys essentially jumping off of the ground with the heels coming up. So you can see like my trail foot right here. It's coming off the ground. Justin Thomas is a good one. And that's just them pushing off of the ground and using the body as like a lever to swing essentially as fast as they can.
Right.
Where if you look at, I go back to like say, the thought of just trying to finish in your left heel, right? If you're trying to keep that down the entire time when you swing, you actually limit how fast you can straighten everything out and potentially slow your swing down.
Yep, so turning less in the backswing became in vogue in the 80s and 90s some. It's less now, but still there. Yeah, never jump off the ground. I remember saying that in front of Phil Blackmar at a teaching and coaching summit, and he then referred to me as the jumping off the ground guy for the rest of the day.
And they are all doing it.
It's crazy. There's another guy who unfortunately has never measured a swing, so it's hard for him to do that. Yeah, people are doing this all the time. Okay, nice job. How about this one then? So on the this is another question that came from, I think, someone on Facebook. On the pre-shot side of things, Justin Rose currently talks about his pump pre-shot routine, and Matt Wolff obviously does a few different things that give him a feel for something. Any suggestions for a pre-shot routine specifically to help you get the feel of taking the club more inside?
Now, where you do this, whether it's back behind the ball or at the ball, I won't dive into that, but I would take a page from the book of like somebody like you'd see Ricky do or Justin Thomas right before they hit. You kind of see them make a little bit of a backswing. So for example, you'd look at Ricky or JT and you see them looking right here on the side view, and you'd see them just take the club back out and check something. Now, theirs tends to go out a little bit more out. They're trying to work on something different than what this person's probably asking for. But what I would do is easy place to get started is kind of to incorporate that same thing, but have your hands move back, almost like over the top of the right ankle, trying to hit your right thigh or put your hands in your right pocket as a way just to practice getting the feel for taking those hands in to start the swing and then hit. It'd be a very easy one, just to stand there, take it back, check it out. Your hand should be essentially inside of your knee. If you were looking at my perspective from that view, probably looks like I said my hands on the pocket. And then just do that a couple times and then step up and then hit.
Major instruction I give a lot to people who slices on the backswing actually hit themselves in the right leg with the butt end of the club, rub up against it. And you'd be surprised at, well, you wouldn't be surprised, but a lot of people who don't teach golf for a living would be shocked at how difficult that is for someone to contemplate. And that's usually the genesis of all golf problems anyway. People don't know what to do, so then when you tell them what to do, they don't know that they have to wrap their head around that. But then also do something that's so radically different or extreme, so they don't also know how much to do things in order to change what they're doing. Okay, that's great.
What do we have?
I got one on Twitter that was great. Sometimes people get a little combative, but let's look at this one. So the question was, I don't want to get fit for golf clubs. Convince me. So I might start with, no, I don't really actually care whether or not you get fit for golf clubs. I am not interested in telling anyone what to do with their golf clubs. Is that a different answer than you were expecting? No? That was it? Okay, so check this one out. These are 3 common club fitting objections that you can see here. First one is, I'm going through swing changes. I don't want to change my equipment. That's fine. I can understand that people would say that. A few other ones that we get all the time, I just purchased new clubs. And then the last one, I just don't want to spend the money. I think it's a waste of money to get fit for golf clubs. Well, you've got quite a conundrum in there. First of all, I'd say, let me give you a little glimpse into exactly how we train our coaches, just so that you can really see what the answer is. We get these problems all the time. These come up every day at GOLFTECs all the time when we tell a student, you know, your clubs are really problematic. You should get fit for those. This is the answer that we give everybody to say. And there's a class in here right now.
Yes.
Brand new coaches just started with us, and they're going through this whole day with us. The way I would answer anyone's question about, I don't want to get fit for whatever reason, it's usually just some cost objection or they don't actually know what it is to answer it like this. Great, I don't want to sell you anything. I mean, the whole purpose of us doing club fittings or any club fitting you go to is to make sure that your current gear isn't really holding you back.
Sure.
There is no other reason. If you come to GOLFTEC for a fitting, no one is here to try to sell you clubs. If you want clubs, great. We'll hammer that down and give you an awesome fitting. You got a little taste of what a wedge fitting would be like. But no one is here to sell you golf clubs. We're not making or driving a business built on you have to buy golf clubs from us. We're here to help everybody just solve whatever problem it is for golf. Can't be any more difficult than that.
Sure.
So this is what coaches say when these objections come up. So literally what we do in a club fitting is test everyone's original club or whatever it is that you use right now. Test a few different ones. Typically people have too high of a spin problem, a ball speed problem, shafts are always way too long, a whole host of problems that they've got.
There's could be
old
a lot.
Stuff for sure.
Mismatching stuff.
Yeah,
right?
We've seen Play-Doh insert putters here and a host of other things, irons without grooves. I mean, those are the people who really need a club fitting. So that goes even just a little bit further. I've got one more slide here that is worth everyone watching too. This is why you actually want to get fit for golf clubs. Check out these results, and these are from fittings that we've had here so far. So this is a small slice of all the club fittings that we do right now. First one is that if you don't want to go through club fitting because it's too expensive, that's fine, I don't really care. But I'm going to tell you it's probably the cheapest investment you can make into your game. Not that the service is cheap, the service is great. You can't, no one else is really doing it quite like we are, or being as open and honest about how to get fit for golf clubs. But almost everybody who comes in, more than 90% of people, we ask them a question that is, do you want more distance?
And
guess what they'd say? 90% of the time?
Yes.
Yes is
even
the
if they hit it far enough, would you like to hit it farther? The answer is always yes.
The answer is always yes. So check out this data from driver fittings. 3/4 of people see the golf ball go farther. Most people, almost 3/4 of them, just pick the one that goes the farthest, and that is great. That's exactly what people should be doing in driver fittings. Most students see about 18 yards of total distance, but there's a segment of it, 19% of them, who actually see more than 30. So if you want 30 yards of distance, if you're that type of golfer, you've got a pretty good chance of getting a far better than 50-50 chance you'll see a ton of distance gain. And there's a chance that you can get over 30 just from this appointment. That's generally how ill-fit people's drivers are for them. And then that last couple bullets right there is the one that I think is, we're trying to shake up a little bit of the club fitting world by bringing some more rationalization to why the average driver length, that's 44.5 inches, is actually testing the best the most often. It's giving you better ball speeds for more solid contact, and then that in of itself is giving you longer, straighter, longer drives. Less gearing on the mishits as well because you're hitting more centered shots. So to the person that says, convince me, no, I don't really care if you get fit for clubs. I do think you're kind of an idiot if you don't do it though. If you're serious about golf, no matter who you are, whatever level you are, if you want to get better, you should make sure that your clubs aren't holding back your performance and your progress. That doesn't mean you have to be good. It just means you have to be serious about golf. If you're not, chances are you haven't made it through 30 minutes here anyway, and we're not talking to you. But like literally, if you want to get better, it is ridiculous and stupid not to get a club fitting.
And
did I say that clear enough?
Said it good.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the entire bag. Like we said, there's holes everywhere, so you can pick any part of the bag to help you to make this game easier.
There might be a 10% chance someone actually walks in here and I can't help them with a huge gap they have between some clubs, or old grooves, or poorly fit driver, or a lot of people are just going to PGA Tour Superstore and looking for the longest one. And
we'll have to do a parody on that one someday.
looking for a driver that's 48 inches and that's what they buy. It's just the wrong way to go about it. You need a professional coach to help you out with all golf things. So I think that's probably about all the time we have here.
Sure.
Did it again though, so we missed a few that I want to get to here next. I've got a video courtesy of PGA Tour about Matt Wolff's swing. We'll take that thing apart and show you why I think it's much more normal than abnormal. Why aren't golfers getting better is a question that my friend Dennis Silvers keeps asking on Facebook. I just ran out of time. I will tell Dennis. You a little hint to that is spin loft. How long does it take to learn a golf skill is another one. And then the fourth one, how does understanding forces and torques make someone a better teacher? Are forces and torques overrated? I'll go ahead and say no, but they may not be all that you're really expecting, at least yet. But a little tease for the next time. Something else you want to say?
Nope.
We'll say goodbye.
Thanks for watching.